I've realized we were also programmed when it comes to entrepreneurship, just in case we become a bit smart and we move out of the employment part and we decide to go our own ways and do our hustles and start our businesses. There's a way we're also conditioned in a way that it also limits how far we can go in that journey. So it'll allow me, please forgive me, I was actually en route to Nakuru. I have an engagement tomorrow early in the morning, and I realized I'll not be in a position to reach to the hotel to conduct this class. So I stopped at Gilgil, and I've just booked a room to get inside, conduct this class, then I proceed on it. So Kiangalia Nyuma understand that place. So without wasting any more time, let's just now do a recap around so far what we've learned. So far, I just want to focus on that, a recap of that. Then today I'll focus on business. And then on our last session, we're going to go into investments. So at the end of the day, I told you the scripture in the book of Hosea 4, chapter 6 is very, very powerful. It's just that people don't get it. So it tells us that my people perish for lack of knowledge, right? That is a general term. If you ask any Christian above 18, they'll quickly rehearse it for you. But when it comes to application of it, that's when we all fail. And the reason why we fail, it's because we've never been able to internalize what I took you through on the first class, where I told you, you need to understand that knowledge is broken down into two parts. There's what we call the correct knowledge and what we call the incorrect knowledge. So anytime we're told that, don't just take knowledge for the sake of knowledge. What that line is telling us is that we perish or we suffer because we lack the right knowledge, because the wrong knowledge is also knowledge. And that's why I keep asking, ni nani kati ya sisi wote hapa hatuna idea about how money is or the topics around money? Who has never had the concept of saving, investing, and all that? So the knowledge, you do have it right, but then why are we struggling financially? So the answer to that question goes to that line. It's because we lack the right knowledge. And this is why I really applaud your board for going ahead and seeing the value of this thing. I've received about 5 calls from people within who've been attending this on a consistency basis, and they're starting to tell me they can start seeing changes happening. So those who've been consistent and not just listening to me, but also applying, because you said from the word God, the moment you learn something, you start applying it. You know, you cannot watch football on the screen for 10 years, then think you're going to play football. There's that element of putting it into practice. So from where I'm seated, the board has played its part for you members. And so for you, it's about absorbing this knowledge. And if you need to recap anything, it's in your YouTube channel. Just go back and go through that, then start applying it. It's really transforming people. I'm not going to lie that to you. And this is how I realized that this is the right approach of how personal finance wellness should be put to people. This is how it's supposed to be taught, because everything starts from people understanding who they are. And so that concept of understanding who we are, we all realize that we have been wired or programmed to define ourselves based on, things we observe with our naked eyes. And that is not the correct way of going about it. The right way of going about it is realizing where we came from. We were created by a very higher being that made us to be like it or she or him, all right? So to understand who we are, we should not be focusing on ourselves to understand who we are. We should be focusing on our creator to understand who she is, because whatever our creator is, we are that image, we are that reflection. And so we started by saying that God is the creator of heaven and earth. So we all agreed that God is the creator. So if God is the creator and he created us in his image, then that makes us also creators. So we asked ourselves then, how do we create? Again, we have to study how God created. And we realize the first thing that God did is he thought, and then he spoke the word, and the word became flesh. So we imitate that because we're his image. That means even us as human beings, our creation process starts with a thought, then we speak the word. But I showed you there's a third one about us, which is the repetition of the first two. So anytime you're starting to think, most people are clueless about how powerful they are. Because you keep thinking about it and speaking about it, you are actually in the process of bringing it to your reality. That's why we said to understand exactly what God intended of us, it means God gave us something unique that he denied all other creation so that we could be like, that image we're talking about. So if God is the creator and he wanted us to be creators, then it means God gave us a tool or something to use as humans to create what we want for ourselves. And that thing is called the mind. So whether you like it or not, as long as you're thinking, you are always in the process of creation. So the problem is we've been raised up with struggles so much that we've accepted struggles and lack of finances to be part and parcel of what life is, not realizing by accepting that in our mind, that's what we'll always keep creating for ourselves. There's no day God will come and change that, because that will be interfering with the free will that he gave us. And that is why the understanding of the mind in terms of what we call the subconscious mind and the conscious was very key. So that you stop blaming God, you stop blaming the devil, you stop blaming the government. You take up full responsibility for your life. And that's why to this day Kenyans, atamaliza miaka tano pia atasonga kama wale wengine. You keep saying that and you're getting old. And nothing is changing in this country. If you take that ownership and say, this is me, I'm the one who created this, it empowers you, because now you realize you're fully responsible for your situations. And that helps you to force your conscious mind to actually start moving in the direction that you want. And I went ahead and I told you, don't beat yourself so much, because this is a blessing. God has brought a knowledge to you that you didn't have before. And that is the two questions I ask you to always ask yourself. Number one, who am I relative to this? So whatever it is you're not happy about, you're asking yourself, mimi ni nani? You're someone who is not happy with this outcome that you're seeing today. So in personal finances, you're not happy with that. If it's businesses, you're not happy with that. If it's investments, you're not happy with that. The problem is not anything outside there other than yourself. And we say the problem is the subconscious mind. Because the reason why you're not happy, it means your conscious want a different outcome. It's the part of your mind that is thinking, I want a different outcome. This is not what I want for myself. But then why is this thing keep showing up for you? It's because the subconscious has been programmed to do the opposite of what your conscious want. So that understanding is so powerful. And if you follow that now, you'll realize from now moving forward, even life will start being simpler. Because you're not being controlled without you realizing. You're focusing so much on what your conscious wants, and you're not going to regret this. So that was the first part that we covered in terms of understanding the mindset. And this tool we've been given called the mind, and how we need to realize when things are not going wrong, who the enemy is. It has nothing to do with other than yourself. But then again, it's not your problem, because you didn't know those programs were being fed into your subconscious mind, right? Okay, then secondly, I introduced the 4 categories where you can earn money from. We call it the cash flow quadrant. This is a concept that was brought to us by one of my mentors, online mentors, called Robert Kiyosaki. He wrote a very powerful book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. In fact, for those of you who follow him, he'll be in Kenya on the 22nd of this month at Ole Sereni. So if you're free and would like to hear him speak, we'll meet there with you. So anyway, the cash flow quadrant shows us the 4 categories where you can earn money from. So on the left side, you have 2, and on the right-hand side, you have 2. So on the left at the top, you have E, for employee, below it you have S for small business, and then on the right-hand side you have B for big businesses, and below it you have I for investments. The importance of understanding this thing we're calling the cash flow quadrant was to show us exactly where financial freedom is, so that you stop being used. You stop being controlled by someone who has programmed you to focus on the left-hand side, and somehow you believe at the end of the day you're going to attain that financial freedom. So this understanding was so simple. I gave you a simple example where I told you, if I drop a car to where you are na nikwambie fukuze upaka mpaka uishike, what is the probability that you'll be able to catch that car? And the answer is very small. So we asked ourselves, if we want to catch that car, what do we do? Tukasema tukafikiria, tukasema tukinunua samaki, maziwa, all those things that the cats like. Tuwekelea hapa chini, hata hatutasonga, mpaka itajileta yenyewe. And once we understood that concept, I told you, if you are either on the left side, either at E or S, you are chasing that car. Ni kufukuza unafukuza pesa. Because you've been programmed to be on the wrong side where the money is not there. You really have to work for it. So this understanding where the money is, then it helps us with those two questions. Where am I today? You're able to analyze and see where you are. Then you say now, going forward on your conscious mind, where do I want to be? Kama unataka kubaki pande left, fair enough. But if you want to go to the right-hand side, then you need to start coming up with a plan of how you're going to get there. There's a lot of work that you need to do because your conscious is only 5%. And you really have to work on that to make sure that you reprogram the wrong programs. Is that example I gave you of, I cannot give you a word processor and give you a sheet of paper with numbers and ask you to perform analysis. You are not going to go anywhere. So no matter how old you are, hata kama una retire kesho, the point is you've learned something you did not know. And your mind does not know age. It does not know a child or an older person. It does not know right or wrong. It only knows to attract that which you allow to stay there. So please let us take control. Let's understand where financial freedom is. So the financial freedom is going to be found on the right-hand side. That's one of the things I'll be starting on today. So just allow me to quickly move to the next part. The other one, I showed you the 3 programs of how money flows. If you're not careful and when you don't realize you're programmed with the wrong programs, then you become a victim for life. Now you can see why so many of our retirees who had very, very good jobs are actually struggling financially. They don't even realize to this day that this thing was designed to program them, because the subconscious mind is not something that you can see with your eyes. It is just there, but you don't know it actually exists. And that's when I told you your conscious is only 5%. Most of you are shocked. So you cannot expect 5% to win 95%. And that's why I told you, anytime you're not happy with anything about your life, the enemy is this person here. So if we want to go to the financial freedom, then we need to understand those 3 cash flowing programs. And we said the first one is money in, money out. Money in through income, money out expense. This is something they programmed us from when we were children. Mom, dad, niletee tamu. Shika shilingi 10, enda ununue. You run to the shop, you buy, mpaka unacha change. You didn't realize you're just programming your mind, money in, money out, money in, money out. And that's why you see most of lottery people who win big lottery money eventually end up broke. It's not about how much money you are, it's about the programs that are running in his mind. So we say the best one, and the one we want to focus on, is basically moving on to cash flowing assets. All right? So the idea is, even before you receive any money, you should be having ideas of cash flowing assets that you want to invest in. And I'm going to show you, just when it comes to the business here, we have been programmed that the first thing we should wait for is money. Then once we get the money, we start thinking about, what can I do? That's a wrong approach. It should always be the other way around. Keep thinking of ideas money will follow you. That's why a lot of Kenyans come to me, Andrew, like your teachings, I have $1 million shilling, I have 10 million. Where should I invest? Why should I tell you where to invest and it's your life? To me, I empower you to get the knowledge, apply that knowledge to decide what you want for yourself. That way, if you put those investments based on your own analysis and understanding, if you fail, you have a reason to learn. Because you understand a child is not born this morning and they start running in the evening. Nature will show you everything takes time. So even as you're starting this journey of investments or businesses, why are you asking people to tell you where to put your money? That's why when things go wrong, you get so bitter because you did not play any part in the decision making. You just went to ask people because you believe they're experts. And that's why I told you these financial institutions with all these things, that's why they make money from you, because you've been conditioned to believe they're experts in everything. But we'll see in our next class when I take you through what we call formal and informal investments. And I'm hoping by that time your minds are going to open up. It's not I'm against you investing with them. No, get me right. I'm just saying you've been blinded to see other opportunities. One, because of our education system, which taught us what to think instead of how. A is for Apple, instead of asking us to come up with names that start with A. So that A is for Apple has been ingrained in you so much until when it comes to investments, you just want quick ways out. You want that A. You want that Apple. Let me go to Andrew. He understands this thing. He's going to make this thing out. Not realizing if you're to ask, how can I come up with names for A? The whole paradigm shifts often up and you see opportunities just around you that you've never seen before. So let's stop closing our minds and let's start opening them up, right? So that's the importance of understanding what we're referring to as the cash flow programs, okay? Now, the second last part here, what I'm calling SMART, this will introduce you to the acronym of you as a creator. It's upon you to decide what you want for yourself. God is not the one who decides. God stands next to you, waiting for you to make the decision. Once you make the decision, yeye kazi yake ni kufanya ifanyike. And he's always doing that, irrespective of what color you are, what religion you are, or non-religion. He treats us all equally as his children. Hakuna watu wana prefer kuliko watu wengine. So when you're standing there praying and you're holding negative thought, hakuna malutasonga. He'll just keep repeating that painful experience, because out of that experience is the third way we solve how God communicates to us. The reason why you keep going through those painful experiences is because you're praying so much for financial freedom, but you're not paying attention to the experiences you're going to. Why? Because your school told you to fail is wrong. Failing is not wrong. It's part of nature. Observe nature around you and you'll realize everything takes time. So once you understand these things, it becomes an exciting journey. You start even blessing every experience that comes to you, especially the painful ones. You tell God, I know it. This is you answering my prayer. So show me ni lesson gani hapa nafaa kujua. Like that butterfly I told you that is coming out from being a cocoon. It's removing the first butterfly, the wing, the second, the first leg. Wewe nataka nikitoka hapa nikikufunza kesho nataka kuwa millionaire. It does not work that way. If you want to do those things, go to wash. But I trust me, it's going to catch up with you, Kombele. If you want to, go the right way of how God intended things to be, it takes time. But the problem is we didn't realize we've been conditioned to go in the wrong direction. And that's why a lot of Africans are suffering. But once you get the right direction, it's only a matter of time. And I'm telling you, within 3 years, I'm almost now every week now I'm getting calls. People are really surprised at how simple this thing is. Why? Our education system tried to complicate it so that it pushes you to believe others can do it for you. And out of that, they just keep, squeezing money from you. And this is why circles are so powerful. But Kenyans, it will take time for them to understand this. It beats no logic for you to take money to the bank when you have a circle. It doesn't completely. For a very simple reason, your Sacco, you are a shareholder. When profits are made, you're part of, that's what the dividends or the interest you get. Since when will a bank give you interest and dividends? You're not a shareholder. So why bring the minimum to Telepost, then take the rest to cooperative bank? My people perish for lack of knowledge. So this part we're calling SMART, the acronym, it was a clever way of you realizing as a creator how you can create things and actually get to reach that point fast enough. Because why? It stands for 5 things. Number one, it tells you as a creator, the first thing that you need to do is to specify what you want. What do you want to create? So it's telling you this S for SMART stands for specific. When you're very specific, your mind knows this is what this person wants. Don't say you want to be wealthy. What is wealthy to you? Is it 10 shillings? Is it 100, a million, a billion, Kenya shillings, Zimbabwe dollar, US dollar? What is it? So the more specific you are, the mind is very clear. You're helping your mind as the creator or its boss on what you want. So when you have no goal in your life, what do you expect? Don't expect God to be more clearer than you are, because he gave you that free will to create what you want for yourself. So when you have no goal, you're existing, you're not living. And ask people around you in the next 5 years, where do you see yourself? And you see people thinking. People existing here, they're so busy moving around, but they're not going anywhere. So this is a very powerful tool. Whoever came up with it, I really respect the person. So the first thing you do is SMART. S, specific. I want $1 billion. That's very specific. And then you work in 9 years. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Sorry, I have no idea what happened just there. Yeah, so saying it gives you a way of measuring how you're progressing. So as a creator, you have told God, this is what I want. And I want it by this time. Fine, I've told you the moment you do that, sasa kazi yake ni kusukuma hapo. So when you break it down into those daily things you need to do, kama umejiambia unafaa kufanya vitu 4, alafu siku ishe haujafanya kitu yoyote, will you start blaming God? In fact, your voice will start telling you, what are you doing? I thought you wanted this. That inner voice will start telling you, I thought you wanted this. You will start naturally to feel guilty. And that will force you to actually put up the energy that is required. You'll find yourself waking up na usikie ukiwa mlazy. If it's sleeping at night, you're going to do it and you'll feel nothing. Why? Because you're driven with something that you've chosen to create uko mbele. So if you had said you're going to do 4, but you end up doing 3, you'll ask yourself, hii moja imenisumbua kwa nini? But it's fine, I've made progress. Second day, nimefanya tena 3, nashindwa ya 4, hivyo hivyo. That's why I told you every experience is God talking to you. So the feedback from God is, my daughter or my son, you've really stretched yourself beyond what you can manage at this particular point. So where you are at is to manage just 3, not 4. That's the feedback coming to you. So you don't get angry, you readjust. Kama ulikuwa umesema 10 years, you increase it to 11 years. such that now those daily things come down to 3, then you proceed on. So you're able to measure, then when you see A stands for, is it attainable out of that experience? Are you being realistic? That's the feedback. So when you keep feeding this back over and over, it's just like machine learning, the way it learns. The more data it's given and it's repetition, it perfects. That's all you need to learn, and you'll be able to achieve anything in this life, no matter what somebody tells you. So that was key for me to repeat that. And then finally, I told you it does not make any sense for us to work so smart and hard to make money, and then we end up spending the entire amount of money on hospitals when we are, at our golden ages. And as you all know, and I'm not going to lie this to you, the industry, the medical industry is not designed to cure you. It's designed to maintain your disease there so that they can profit with every purchase of medicine you're making. That's why last time I brought a nutritionist here to speak to you. I hope you took his number. I've told you personally, I gave you an example from where my mother-in-law is. It's upon you. I know ugonjwa sukari inasumbua watu sana, and just out of him directing you in terms of the diet to eat, acheni kusikiza wa madaktari. I've told you everything there is designed to maintain you. Hakuna tofauti ya unga ya white na unga ya brown. All of them are starch, and starch is what causes sugar in your body. That's a logic. If you ask any doctor, atakwama. So for those who took advantage of that, well and good. So today, I want us to proceed on by looking at this cash flow quadrant. So I told you, if you're on the left-hand side, you are chasing the cart. If you're on the right-hand side, you are attracting the cart to where you are. So what are we talking about here today? So today I'll be focusing on business, and then next time I'll be focusing on investments. Okay? So let's start with business. Of course, now when I'm looking at this, I am looking at this B. Those of you who wish to go the business route, the ultimate end of your goal should be at B, not S. Okay? But you cannot start B without S. That's why you have to come back to where S is. Okay? So the point is, what are the fundamentals I need to have around my framework of thinking such that I start from S, and with time, I'm able to move to B. That's what we want to look at today, right? So I know some, I'm sure most of you have your side hustles. If there are those who left employment and set up your own things, this is your day. Now, I'm going to start off by saying that the first thing that I came to observe is the success of a business relies heavily on the idea behind that business. I'm going to repeat that again. The success of a business heavily relies on the idea that provoked it to actually start that enterprise of that business. Which means the first thing that we need to learn today are the different ways of how we come up with business ideas. Okay? That's very key. Now, there are 4 ways of how we come up with businesses ideas. Those of you who have pens and papers can go ahead and write. And the first one, I call it copy paste. Okay? The first one is copy paste. What does this mean? It basically means you want to start a business, what do? You react. You react because our education system taught us to be reactors. Just like governments are, always reacting, nothing proactive. So what do? You look around. Nani anafanya nini? Ule anafanya nini? Pale pana pesa, hata pia mimi ndazisha hiyo. Copy, paste. Now, if all of us are copy pasting each other, do you see how crowded the space becomes? If you're the first person to come with the idea, well and good. But remember, Kenyans, through our education system, we are taught what to think, not how. A is for apple. And we're comfortable with that. So if someone comes up with a brilliant idea, it shocks us. Wow, anatengeneza pesa, we know now that to be the airport. The next thing, everyone is opening that business. Everyone, kila mtu anakimbia hapo. Before you know it, that market share that you had initially when you started this business, inaanza kunyakuliwa moja moja. Eventually, all of us collapse. And that's why I blame our education system on that part. The second thing I blame our education system is this idea of teaching us to compete instead of cooperating. To a point where this competition has become so lethal, you hear of people wanaenda kwa waganga, wengine sijui wanakuambiwa nguke. You know, it's really become so toxic to a point where it's like no one wants to see any other person thriving. Na ndio maana Wasomali wanatupita tu pole pole tu, hawana haraka. And if we do not change our mindsets, this country is gone. That one I assure you. I use public means to come all this way. So there was a lot of trafficking at CBD. So as we entered Kirinyaga Roduko chini, tukuje toke Globe, I was sitting on the window and I was just looking on the shops. And I just realized almost 40% now of all those shops on the side, on the left, on the right side of Kirinyaga Road on your way towards Globe are now owned by Somalis. Long time, it was 100% Indians. You go to any town today, Somalis are there. And you can even tell the difference. Hata kuangalia tu dukai utajua. I told you there's something these people understand that we don't. And I've told it all boils down to mindset. And now I'm coming to give you that element of business generating ideas that they use. Now, the problem with us is before we change our mindset from competing to cooperating, yes, itachukua muda gani? Because they are very good kwa kushikana hivi, very good. So me, I'll play my part. I'll show you ways of how you generate ideas that are unique. So we're saying when you copy paste, you're basically trying to force yourself in a space that is already crowded. And you'll be surprised how many Kenyans do that, especially our retirees. You have retired, you know very well in the next maybe 2-3 months, there's a fat check coming to you. But like I told you, because your education system has not taught you how to think, and you took loans which really messed you a lot to a point where you're fearing being fired, you stop thinking. Ukuja kutoka pale nje, you think now you're ready to face this. You're not. Because whether you like it or not, if you want to do business or investment, you have to learn from basics. And even if someone doesn't teach you, experience will. The same thing I keep talking about a child. Hakuna mtoto zaliwa na kimbia. It's a process you have to follow through. But you're surrounded with people of shortcuts. So without you realizing kwa mind yako, you also want to make money so fast because everyone around is trying to do that. You're surrounded with corrupt people who do all these illegal deeds and they become rich within a week. You think you're going to do that in this way. It's not going to work. So you come out to get this check, you bank it, the money comes in. You still don't have an idea of what to do. So what do? You start looking around you. This one is doing this, that one is doing that. Oh, that seems okay. That seems like a good one. You take all your money and then neck up. Before you know it, all money is gone. So it's important for us to appreciate these things I'm telling you and start putting them into practice. So for me, if you're choosing to go the copy-paste way, which is what most of us do, then understand you're already starting from a very struggling point of view. You're entering into a market where people are already there. People who have experience, people who have connections, people who have networks. Before you pull through there, it will take you a long time. Remember the time of M-Pesa agent came out. People are not interested. Then people realize, whoa, we're getting commissions for doing this. Sasa, which corner can you see in this country that doesn't have M-Pesa? Who opens M-Pesa anymore? It's become so saturated. Young people with cybers, when internet came to be, every corner you go, cyber, 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 cyber. Then the smartphone came. Who needs cyber anymore? Unless you're going to print something. Now look what has happened to them. Okay? Mnakumbuka simu ya jamii? Before people could afford, before the smartphone came, there were these green phones you used to go and pay, then you call someone. They started and everyone, biashara, biashara, biashara. Same thing, copy, paste, copy, paste. Where are they today? Now walk into any small town and tell me how many outlets of shops are selling clothes. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Which corner doesn't have a pub? Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And we call ourselves entrepreneurs. When you're thinking like everyone else is thinking, how do you expect to be different? We need to move out of that completely. Right now, it's the beauty products which are booming. Now every girl wants to be a beauty something, beauty something, beauty something. Ukombele. It's very easy to see how this thing will turn out eventually, just from the past experience. So you may be approaching, maybe you want to move out of your job to start a beauty something. But I'm telling you, read from this data of these others I've talked about and ask yourself, how different do you think you'll be from others? Okay? Now there's another one that is picking up. Naona inajita uji pao or something like that. Yeah? Now you walk, it started in CBD. Sasa ukienda kwa my estate, wamefungua kila. Mariam, please mute on your end. Thank you. So now you go to the estates, ujipawa imeingia. Before you know it, that's how we keep killing ourselves. Hakuna mahali tunasonga because we are programmed when it comes to business to always copy paste. So understand that the copy pasting of business idea is a reactive reaction because of what you've observed for so long. And that is the work of your subconscious mind. It is a reaction. So copy paste is a reaction. Okay? Now, I want to move to the second part. And in this second part, I call it fulfilling the needs or the wants. Now, when I say fulfilling the needs and the wants, let's try and understand these two words. What are needs? Needs are basically things you need to survive in this world. You can't do without food. Okay? You can't do without water. You can't do without shelter. That's why real estate is very big. Like I said, you can't do without food. That's why there are restaurants everywhere. You can't do without water. Right now, every place you walk, they're selling water bottles, all that. They say you can't do without clothing. That's why you see all outlets are clothes, and so forth and so on. But the question now is, the first part I talked about copy pasting. But these people who copy paste are also fulfilling needs or wants. So the difference between copy pasting and what I am calling fulfilling the needs or wants is that the first part is a reactive, that's your subconscious mind. The second part is your conscious now, which is saying, which needs or wants do people want? You're not reacting, you're now starting to think. Hapa naona watu wanataka nguo, nikinunua nguo na naona hizi outlet zote ziko na manguo, what will make me different? So you start the process of what can I do if I really need to get into clothing? What is it that I can do to be unique? Because when I'm unique, then customers of all other shops will want to come to my shop. It's as simple as that. I gave you an example of a lady who I helped with 50,000. And one of the things I've realized, there's so many people who are doing that job of selling malekomale. What I've realized she's done is she's gone ahead and created contacts with those people who bring them from China. So siku ile zinaingia tu hivi, anakuaga wa kwanza hapo. So she picks the unique things which have not been there before. Alafu anateremka na mzigo yote nyumbani. So she's always a step ahead of all others. Always a step ahead of all others. That uniqueness is what I'm talking about. So here you're coming asking yourself, do I want to fulfill a need or a want? We've said that need is something you need to survive. A want is the opposite. It is something you do not need to survive. Makeup. You can do without makeup. So makeup is not a need, it's a want. Okay? You can do without drinking. That's just something for fun or leisure, for those who do it. That's a want. Okay? So when you differentiate these two things, then you ask yourself, which one do I go for? And so you become very critical in terms of your analysis. Nenda hapa kwa nini? Hii market ikiendelea hivi alafu kitu ifanyike, COVID ifanyike. Do I stand the chance? The market is already saturated. So you do not get into the market until you find something unique or a niche that no one else has exploited, and you go for that. So when you think about the first and the second, you'll realize the second one makes a lot of sense. And let me tell you something, those who move to the second part are those people you hear who go to look for those clothes huko nje. Because they've realized tunapenda kuvaa sana. But now being in Kenya, maduka ni kila mahali. But what if I can go outside and bring and supply to all these people? What happens? Which is something we look at in a short while. So when you're using your conscious mind, it forces you to think beyond what most people see. Completely. Utajipata unafanya analysis, unajipata with 5 ideas, unasema zote hapana. Because consciously, when you think through them, you're like, this will be a struggle. This I'll be chasing that cat I was talking about. So you hold back and continue thinking until that day you find that niche. At that particular point is when now you go after it. Okay? So please understand, the first part of copy pasting is a reactive in nature. It's the subconscious that is talking. The second one now, where we're talking about identifying a need or want and going for it, this is something that you're actually doing consciously. And because you're doing it consciously, and we say the conscious mind is that part of your mind that is trying to analyze things, you'll find yourself thinking beyond those who are reacting. And more often than not, a lot of ideas, you're going to set them aside. Wacha hiyo pesa ikae kwa sako ikiwa interest, nikifikiria idea ambayo nitafanya. And so if you pick these two people who are starting a business, what are the chances that ule wa kwanza ataweza kusucceed kuliko wa pili? Just think through that. And this is what now the Indians and Somalia have done to us. They have studied us because they needed to understand what our needs are and what our wants are. And they're able to prioritize those things that we can't do without. Then they either produce them or they go for them there and they bring them in bulk. Wewe unafungua kashop kamoja pale and you call yourself an entrepreneur. having copied what someone else is doing there. Entrepreneurship is deep, is very deep. And about 95% of the times when you're trying it, you're going to fail. This is something you all need to know, understand, appreciate. Ndo mwache uoga ya kwanza biashara. That paycheck umezoea kila mwezi imekuingia kabisa, such that you believe failing is something wrong. I have told you, that's why I taught you the 4 ways of how God communicates to us. And I told you the third one is experience. Bless every experience that comes your way. If you're heading the business side or the entrepreneurship, every painful experience, trust me, it is God answering prayers you've been praying about. Stop complaining, stop looking for blames. Just go back to your knees and tell God, I know this, you're bringing this because you want to strengthen something in me. I told you it's as simple as that. So your focus should be, what is the lesson that is coming out of this painful experience? And when you turn your mind around that, you will always see what that problem is. And once you get to identify that problem, it means you've moved a step further, closer toward that prayer which you're asking for, which is actually what you chose to create for yourself. That experience is powerful. Forget what this education system lied to you about, that failing is bad. A point is going to come where you'll be able to run it even without thinking. Just like you see any nature, whether it's a tree, it started as a what? A seed. Then it became a small leaf. Very fragile. Ukiguza hivi imeenda tu. Understand, we are no different. And everything how God created is the same thing. When you're starting to do business, whether you start at 10 years, 5 years, at 60 years, it doesn't matter when you start. You are that seed. And so there's that process you have to go and grow to a point where you become a tree that cannot be moved. And this is why it's so important for us to start teaching our children these things from a very young age. Allow them to learn the mistakes while they're under your roof, because they're safe. Wacha kutuma mtoto wako kwa hii dunia ambayo imeharibika sijui kama nini, to learn from this experience. Because trust me, akirudi kwako, they'll be worse off. Teach the child the way to go. As an adult, they're not going to depart from that. Proverbs 22. Tunasoma lakini hatusikii na hata tukisikia tu apply hizi vitu, because tulikorogwa huko tukaambiwa ni vibaya. Yet their children, we see them in the shops. We see them in their businesses. We see them in the banks. We see them doing all these things they told us we shouldn't be doing. And we're just following them blindly. Why? Because we are conditioned with our education system to believe everything they tell us is true. Whatever you do, this information is up to you. I told you that from the word go. So we have gone through the first 2 ways. Now, the third one I want to walk you through is using your skills or talent. When I was growing up, I loved playing football a lot. In fact, it's the only thing we used to do when you're not in school. But for us, it was a way of passing time. We could play from morning, even without going to lunch, until evening. I don't know where kids get this energy from. Tukianza kwenda nyumbani, ni mtu ameona mzazi wake kwa mbali anakimbia. Kwa sababu umeambiwa uoge by saa fulani, ujaoga, unachukua mafuta, unajipaka, unasahau kule chini. And as we played football, we used to enjoy it so much even at primary and high school, because there's something called raw talent. And then I'll hear people talk about Atikon academies of football, Maju. And I used to wonder, academy, a school for football, what are they taught? Because to me, it's something natural. And this question bothered me for a very long time, actually, I think to the moment I found myself studying there, is when I started to realize how, corrupted our minds have become. These guys have schools for everything. Kuna yetu education for these professions we call E. They have schools for sports, different academic, basketball, you name it. They have academics for, what do they call them? Actors. They have academies for musicians. They have all these schools. And I got there like, what is going on here? And it's just a clear to what I'm just trying to tell you. For them, it was just to program all us to run into that space called the E. They did not want us to learn from that, our very own experiences or talents and skills. We can create businesses. And I mean, this is something that is absolutely so sad. So sad. And I'm going to share with you a couple of examples. I want you to think about Black Americans. For those who are a bit older, I want you to think about all the Black American musicians you loved when you're growing up. Those of you used to like Marvin Gaye. Alice, please mute for me. There's some noise coming from somewhere. Thank you. For those of you who grew up quite in the 70s, there was a great Black American called Marvin Gaye. And I mean, to this day, you listen to his song and you just feel the voice. No wonder they call it the soul. It really used to come from here. The talent is unmatched. But this is someone who died from cocaine overdose. Now, how many examples can you relate with Black Americans on that? How come all superstars who ended up dying, it was either an overdose of drugs or something to do with women? Is it a coincidence? That's why I tell you, open up your mind and you'll see these things in a big picture. Who owned those companies that were actually signing them up? Were they Black Americans? Who owned the rights to those music? So they programmed us, lifestyle. Before I sign you up, let's meet in this 5-star hotel. Ujai kanyagata hoteli, sasa umetoa 5-star. Na za huko si kama hapa. Ukiingizwa hivi akili yako imechanganyikiwa yote kabisa. You're shown the lifestyle you can be living, and the next thing you're just so quick to sign things down, not realizing you're handing over all the rights of your talent. Ukianza kupiga kelele hivi kidogo, they know how to play these cards. Unasukumiwa mwanamke tu huko. You think it's a woman who's randomly falling in love with you. These are things we've come to realize at the end, towards the late 2000s. It's all designed because they know that woman will be the weak point for you. So let's go back to the 80s. There was a very talented musician called Whitney Houston. I don't think in my life so far I've heard such a voice. That lady could sing. And even today when you listen to her music, you feel it completely. But guess what happened to her? She was found overdosed in a hotel room. And the worst thing about it is that they were trying to make a comeback. She really got into the drugs to a point where even it started affecting the voice cord. So they had been working so hard to try and bring it back. Kumbe naye alikuwa anajishtaga kwa choo, anaendelea hizo madawa za kulevya. So that day I know it was overdose of what it is. It's just a sad story. A lady who used to remove hits after hits after hits ends up dying with loans. So I wanted to compare that lady called Whitney Houston. And then let's pick another one, current one. We can look at either Beyonce or we can look at a lady called Rihanna. These are ladies who understood what you're seeing on your screen. They understood when they were starting their music careers, they had a very clear goal. They understood where the money was. So for them, it was about big business and investments, one of those two. So even as employees of whatever, when they were starting their careers, they were saving money to start their own small producing companies, which is S, with a very clear goal of how this is going to scale up to B, or eventually sell it up to make money as investments. Rihanna, out of the talent of singing and having so many followers, decided to create a product, this beauty product, named after her company. So the followers of her, because they sort of worship her, they want to associate with her. So what do? They purchase these products. And she became so successful, she was approached by one of the leading companies. In fact, the current billionaire for LVME is the one who bought it off from her. Guess how much? Over $1 billion, pop. Because she tapped into her talent and created a product because of that talent. And she became a billionaire dollar. So I wanted to compare Rihanna here and Whitney Houston, who was more talented than Rihanna. So the understanding is that you can use your skill or talent to actually create income for yourself, a business idea. I didn't even realize that I have that capability of breaking complex things into ways even children can learn. To me, I knew ni kazi ya walimu. It's until people start telling me, and you have a gift of breaking things down. If kids can understand these things, and the more I thought about it, and it came from so many people, I realized, wow, that's a gift I have. Then I need to create a way of how I can tap into it to create a business. And here I am speaking to you. Kwa hivyo usidharau hiyo yuko nayo, you can do something with it and create a business out of that. I'm going to give you a second example. There's a sports guy who was called Mike Tyson. He's called Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was a boxer. At the peak of his career, there was another sports person in the basketball world called Michael Jordan. These two were the highest paid at their peak. Can you imagine Michael Jordan will play a game for 1 hour? Mike Tyson will enter the ring and knock someone within a minute and get paid $30 million. So what happened? So companies will come and endorse them, would like you to advertise for us. So Michael Tyson is getting all these millions coming in. Guess what he's doing the money for? He's going to buy a sports car. He actually said one day that he had a hobby of purchasing sports car. Who has a hobby of purchasing sports car as an adult? I believe hobby is something you're born with. That's ego at its best. There was a point whereby Mike Tyson had 50 new sports cars kwa compound yake. Yaani akisema peleke moja leo kesho hivyo, a whole month hatarudia gari. Why? Because money was coming in. But who was giving him these cars? Like I told you, that's how they do it. They see you're making money, they come for you. Hey, Mike, we see you like sports car. Which is your favorite? Okay, I'm the managing director of Ferrari. Akishasikia managing director of Ferrari, kwanza anashuka. So I have a proposal for you. What's your proposal? Would like to make a custom car, sports car for you. Would you like that? That sounds good. That sounds good. All right, it's gonna cost you $30 million. Fair enough. Ya kitoka hivi banki inaingia. Mike, hey, we hear you want another sports car. Do you want a loan? Oh, sure. Unanunua na vita ijakuja. Just because you've been winning, you assume the money will keep coming. Siku ile alitandikwa, hapo sasa ndio ilianza. He looked around and there's no one around him. Hizo gari zilibebwa zote, to a point where Mike had to move back to a relative house. Career imeisha ya boxing, hakuna pesa, kuna madeni, even went ahead and filed for bankruptcy. This is a story here with Black Americans and you think it's a joke. I told you everything is designed. So of late is when he started doing some comeback through acting, doing shows here and there. And now he's become very wise to a point where he's even teaching people about concepts of money, because he looks back and realizes how stupid he was. Now, on the same part, we had this guy who was doing basketball called Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan, Nike used to approach him because he was very good at that sport. So they will design shoes and then he'll advertise Nike. Then someone came and sat him down and told him, this is not the right way. That person is called Warren Buffett. And he told him, I'll show you a secret of how you can make money for the rest of your life using your talent. The next time Nike comes to you and tells you, you advertise for them for the next, let's say, 3 years and they pay you, say no. Tell them this time, I want us to partner and design a shoe that has your name and my name. And for every shoe that you sell, I'll be getting some percentage perpetually. Perpetually means as long as that shoe is being produced, whether I'm there or not, that money is going to be credited into my holding company. So that's how Air Jordan became what you know it today. And to this day, Nike has never sold such successful shoes as that one. He became a billionaire instantly. And to this day, pesa inaingia tu. Awe asiwe, akwe mgonjwa, asiwe mgonjwa, money is coming in. This is what we're talking about, passive income. Money is working for you. Enough of examples huko nje. Tukuja hapa nyumbani. How many celebrities did we know back then were doing good? Today, hawako. We see them asking for money all the time. Akina Omosh, unfortunately. Let's go to Tanzania. There's this guy who was called Mr. Nice, who had some very nice hit songs in the early 2000s. Those who remember a song like Fagilia, Fagilia, Kuku Kapanda Baiskeli. Hits after hits after hits come a diamond. Today, as I am talking to you, Mr. Nice lives in Mlolongo. And the worst thing about that is he's been kept with a sex worker who lives there. Look at Diamond. Started as an employee, started Wasafi as something small, had a clear goal. Now look where Wasafi is. So understand, in all these things that I'm telling you, it is not difficult as long as you have the right programs or the right thinking of where you're heading. My people perish for lack of the right knowledge. It is so powerful. So I have shown you how programmed we are when it comes to businesses. Okay? So we are saying, now we've covered the reactive part of copy-paste. The second one, we've said fulfilling needs and wants through our conscious awareness of what we're doing. And then the third one, we've talked about tapping into our skills and talents. And this is why the parents of us today, we need to change our attitude. We stop raising our children the same way we were raised by our parents. Because to them, talent was something you do to pass time. In fact, when I was young, I remember in the 80s, the songs that I used to hear around is what we call rumba. And that never used to pay quite well. But look today, look at our musicians and how much, just look at the lifestyles. Don't see your son, your daughter there painting. Support them in their talents. It gives them reason to see a reason behind living or something that excites them. Tusiwe kama wazazi wetu, shule kila wakati, ama tuko kwa shamba. Things have changed and we have to change with that time. Talents and skills open doors. Msidanganywe na mtu. It does. So those are the three ways. Now I want to go to the fourth one. And this fourth one now is what is the game changer for you. For those of you with ears, msikize and note this down. In all the conversations that you've had today, how many of them or what percentage of them have not been a complaint? Of all the conversation you've been having, let's even for the last 1 week, how many of them have been complaints? You will realize almost all conversation around ourselves are always complaint. Serikali, mvua, nini. Remember, as a creator, what you think about is what you bring about your life. So if you're always thinking of complaining, you can see what you've stored inside, what you're always thinking about, and you can see where the outcome of your life is the way it is. And generally speaking, look at us as Kenyans. Sai saa tatu ikifika, eka news. And tell me, how many good things will you hear in the first 10 minutes? What positive message do you think you'll get in the first 10 minutes? It speaks volume about us, not even the media. It's about us, because we are the people who are feeding the media to show us that. If everyone became like me for 5 days in this country, the media will automatically change. Mimi niling'oa mpaka channel za Kenya. I just got tired of seeing negative day in, day out, day in. Siku hizi niko na Netflix na YouTube. I can choose what I want to watch. I have the control of what I want to see. I want to see something that is going to make me happy. I want to see something that is going to empower me in terms of my thinking. I want to see something that is going to challenge me. I don't want to see how someone died somewhere. The next day, some other people died. And the reason why they're dying is always the same thing: the roads, corruption. I got tired. That speaks to how we are as a nation. So we are so focused on complaining, no one is paying attention to those complaints. That is your opportunity to a billion company. That is your opportunity. So what do? Get yourself a notebook like this one. Iweke kando ya kitanda yako. Before you sleep, starting today, just write down one complaint that you had. For starters, itakusumbua because it's something you're not used to doing, but just start it. Leo unaweza enda kulala, usahau kuandika. Uamke kesho, ukitoka kwa kitanda yako uone notebook sana. Jana nisahau kuandika. It forces your mind to start thinking. Na jana ni complaints gani? You'll struggle because you have also been part of that people contributing to the complaints. So the fact that now you're setting this notebook on the side and a pen, what you're trying to do is to start teaching your subconscious to pay attention to what others are complaining about. So you're moving yourself from that circumference of complaining, and you want to come outside. So it's going to take time. Unajaribu inakata, but eventually, because of having that notebook on the side, it will force you. Start doing that. Just one. And then at the end of the week, on the weekend, ask yourself, Monday niliandika hii complaint moja. How many people complain about this thing? Jiulize swali. Ni watu kadhaa. Try and estimate. Andika hapo kando. Tuesday, niliandika hii complaint. How many people complain about this thing? Write it on the side there. Go to the third one. Ivo too. Okay? Next week, repeat the same process. I am promising you this, that by the end of the first 1 month, hautakosa one complaint that is shared with so many people, and that becomes your business opportunity. That becomes your business idea, because it means everyone else here is complaining. No one is thinking about the solution. So if you're the only one who has identified this complaint, then you start now asking yourself, how can I solve this? Remember the kind of self-talk we said we need to have with ourselves. We stop saying we can't. We say, how can we? At a personal level, you say, stop saying I can't. Always say, how can I? When you tell your mind, I can't, you are the boss. You are the driver of your life. You have been given this tool called the mind, which is so powerful. It's just waiting for you to instruct it on what to do. So when you tell it, I can't, it tell you, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. This is the end of it. It's not going to give you ideas. But when you ask it, how can I? You're tasking it to perform. You want answers, and your mind is going to go to work. And if you don't believe that, just take a yourself, just say loud inside yourself, I can't. And feel. Once you say I can't, then ask yourself, how can I? And feel the difference. So when you start putting that into practice, be on the lookout. Don't have a fixed mind. Have an open mind. Remember, our school was designed to control your thought process. We need to open that. And once you start asking yourself, how can I, be on the lookout. You're going to open the next newspaper and you're going to start reading an article, and the answer will be there. You'll be traveling in a public means and you hear people talking there, and out of something, an idea comes like, that is the solution I was looking for. Even a bird can pass here and you look at it and it moves a certain direction and you realize, wow, that is how God works. Be on the lookout, because answers around you. It's all about the energy I was talking about. So when you're sending this positive energy, you want to be the solution creator to this problem. The universe will respond back to you. It will send the signals, the right energy to you. So be on the lookout. And that's why I told you, stop thinking about money. Think about ideas and money will show up itself. But when you're thinking of money only, that's why you get money and you're stuck. You don't even know what to do. So you come to me and tell me, where can I invest? You go around asking people what to do because you had not thought of where you want to be. So we said we stop existing and we start living. Very, very powerful. I am promising you this, and I'm going to give you an example of a child, a young man who finished Form 4, and he comes from a ghetto, very, very poor background somewhere in Athi River. And there's this NGO that was set up. You know, most of these NGOs are just ways of people making money for themselves without really the focus of why they said they created it in the first place. So I volunteered to go and teach them entrepreneurship there. So I used to go there twice in the evening, and I walked them through that. And the interesting thing is that there are different branches across different counties in Kenya. So at that particular time, there were 10. The River branch had never won any competition among their peers when it comes to entrepreneurship. So I listened to them, I walked them for about 3 weeks, and we came up with our business ideas, we created everything, and we went to pitch. When I got there, I was really, it was happy, sad, mixed sort of. Because what The others were showing us they were selling kills, sukuma wiki, mwingine ametengeneza beads. You just see the copy paste at best at work. My first presenter came out, and this time even they called what? These things that fly, we call them what? They can even move medicine from one place to another. I've forgotten that name. One of them had actually come up with the idea, drones. He had even come up with the drones of moving medicine from point 1 to 2. And I remember when he started, when he was presenting, even the panelists themselves looked shocked. They looked lost because they were hearing things they've never heard before. It was taking time for them to digest what this kid was talking about. The second one came with this idea of creating pampers that can actually show a parent immediately a child, goes for a short call. The third one had created, there was just so innovation in this thing. It shocked everyone so much that the judges just said, it just has to be 1, 2, 3 is going to Athi River. But because that is going to be unfair, let's give them 1 and 2. And then the next thing, I get a call from the headquarters in India telling me that they'd like to employ me. I said, I don't want to be employed. I was doing this thing because I want to help these children. As a matter of fact, I'm going to set up my own NGO to compete with you because you've been promising these children you're going to fund them with money which is coming from MasterCard, but you're not doing it. Someone is eating that money. So I am telling you this works. Just focus on complaints. Stop thinking about money. Focus on complaints. Those complaints, you'll realize how much Kenyans we like kuteta too. But those opportunities, that is why all these nations are coming to our country and they're quickly becoming millionaires. They are listening to our complaints and then they're creating solutions to solve those problems for us. And then as they become wealthy, tunaanza kujiuliza, what are we doing wrong? It's our mindset. We need to shift upstairs completely if we want to see a different scenario of this country. But at the very least from this program, for yourself, it's all about the mind, nothing else. That's why I told you, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. You are the one who is responsible for creating your reality. The day you accept that fact, you take ownership. And everything going forward becomes interesting. And it's the time you'll realize what I mean when I talk about living and existing. So that fourth way is very, very powerful. Start paying attention. And the more you keep doing about this thing, you'll realize that you're going to perfect in it. So I tell people, it's so simple. Keep writing them. Even if you don't have money, keep writing them. Just keep writing those ideas. These days, if you go to the internet, you can get funding. You can get funding. If the idea is too big, well, now your Sacco cannot give you loan for that. You have people who have money but do not have ideas. So what do? Let's assume you have 5 powerful ones. And you're like, these ones are very good. I'm going with these 5. So what you do, pick the first one. You look for someone who can fund it. Most of the time, he'll tell you we go 50-50, or they might want a higher share, whatever it is. But you're smart. You have 4 others behind there. So you can decide, let me use this as a way of preparing for the other 4. So you can tell that person, fair enough, I'm going to agree on what you say, what you propose, but these are my conditions. Number 2, you're going to introduce you. Number 1, you're going to mentor me. Because most of these people who are actually bring capital to these ideas are people who have experience. So tell them you'd like them to mentor you, maybe once a week, every meeting, so that you keep picking something from them, something. Okay, you can say for 2-3 years. Number 2, I want you to introduce me to your network. So as this person is introducing you to the network and is actually mentoring you, he does not know you have 4 ideas which you've kept on the side. So as you move around this network, you can start meeting people and you realize this one will be very good for idea number 3. This one is good for idea number 4. Power of network. Okay, good. Now you're building that network. You can even now start, finding information about that person without getting the details of what you're going to do. And so as this company is growing up and growing up, you're making money, that's capital coming in to start your second one. You can start placing that money again, like we said, put it back into the circle. Because that way they have a window of what you're doing. So when they do their credit analysis, it's easy for them. We talked about setting up these cash flow assets. So it becomes even easier to get more capital from the Telepost Sacco. So a point is going to reach whereby you have he's mentored you enough, you've had enough experience of running that company from inception with him and holding you to a point where it's running, it's making good money, and now you have access to capital. So depending on how mnapelekana na yeye, you can decide, you can tell him, I want out, I want to sell my remaining shares to you. So you've walked out with your capital, you've walked out with experience, mentorship, and network. Those 4 key things in businesses is everything. And now you have 4 ideas waiting for you. What stops you becoming a billionaire? It's you. It's your mind. It's you telling your mind. So we need to really change how we see things here. And that's what I'm telling you. When you're thinking about complaints of people, you'll be picking ideas where no one else is thinking. Which means when you set up this business, you'll be the only person who'll be providing this service or this product. Therefore, the entire market share is for you to grab it. You can be doing that until now. People, it's like Elon Musk. These days, people just wait for Elon Musk to come up with an idea and they want to throw money at him. Because they know he's gone to that level of thinking so big with smart ideas. So stop thinking about money. Think of ideas. Money will bring itself. That's what I assure you. Okay? So do that small exercise going forward, and you're going to see the impact of this. Now, finally, I want to share something with you here. There is something we were taught in primary school called the supply chain. And basically, you have your client here or a customer. Then you have what we call the retailer. Then you can go to the wholesaler. You can go to the distributor. And you can go to the manufacturer here. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can be a combination of different things depending on the industry where you are. But the point that I want to drive home here today is I want you to pay attention to that chain because this is so powerful. Okay? Now, again, those who, let's say, thought of becoming entrepreneurs before we really got to understand how these things work, you will realize that most of us, when you start a business, so we're saying those of us who choose to go to business, you will realize that most of people are normally found here. No, I've lost them. Anyway, let me just go back here and use this slide. I think this will be better. Also, here's just doing the summary of it. And you can hear I'm saying, think ideas first, not money. And these are the 4 ways of how I told you. So now I want us to go through this. I call it the magic of supply chain. So at the top here, we have the customer or the client. Below, we have the retail. Then under retail, we have wholesale, then distribution, and you end up at manufacturing. Okay? So what I was saying is, I told you the system was designed to make all of us workers, not thinkers. Remember that, John D. Rockefeller. So the education system was designed to produce workers, not thinkers. Yet you as a creator, your work is to think. But someone wanted to suppress that mind not to think. That's why a small percentage of the people in this world control the entire world. So it's a decision whether you want to remain in that majority of people or you want to push yourself to that end. So now, for those who come out of school or those who dropped out, because in Kenya, most of those who come out of school and they're not able to get those jobs they were promised, there's just a very high rate of suicide that goes on. Others become depressed, they start drinking, and just see our youth going to waste like that. So those who dropped in primary, wakaambiwa ni wajinga, waweze endelea na shule or high school, those are the people now who sort of try to venture into these small businesses they do. And then again, for those who walk out of employment and they decide they're going to do that, you will realize that much of what we think about is this yellow part called retail. So let's go back to those examples we talked about for copy-paste. Okay? Let's start na ile simu ya jamii. Iko wapi? You're at retail. You're just waiting for customers to come and make phone calls. M-Pesa agents, uko retail. You're just waiting for customers to come there, deposit and withdraw. Uji with power. Hii sasa kila mtu anakimbilia. You're waiting for customers to come and sit there. In fact, it's so saturated, you're starting to knock in people's houses to make orders. Those are still customers. You are at a retail point of view. Beauty products. Everyone is making noise on social media. Instagram, TikTok, you name it. Those are customers you're reaching out. Where are you? Retail. That's why I've highlighted that place with yellow to show that our minds have been controlled when it comes to business. That's the farthest we think about. Now, here's a secret that I want to open your eyes to. The money is further down. The further you go below, that's where the money is. That's where you find someone who's opened up a place for, a wholesale. So a wholesale now is focusing on all the shops that are around within that area. You'll see that place being so busy. If you go down to distribution, it's busier. When you go to manufacturing, because any materials zinatoka. So if God has given you the mind to think about manufacturing, why are you thinking about retail? It's a conditioning that you didn't know exists in your subconscious mind. This is how Indians came into this country with just $100. And today they run 80% of our manufacturing companies because we were programmed just to go to school. They understood, even if you go to school, we require those tissue. You need cooking oil. You need salt. You need sugar in your house. As students, we need pens. We need papers. All those things, they went and set up manufacturing companies to produce these things for us. That is how they took over the manufacturing industries. Now the Somalis have come, they've perfected it more than the Indians to a point where Indians now are closing. And let me tell you why Somalis are so successful is that power of unity, kushikana. That same friend of mine I told you about, there's one day he told me, Andrew, do you know There's no industry we're going to get into na mtushinde. And he told me live, it's because you people compete for nothing. Akaniambia, can you imagine, sisi ushikana hivi, someone has a wholesale or pharmaceutical somewhere, another one, they don't even focus on retail. Them is wholesale going down. Na kama uamini enda Isili leo. That is all these buildings coming up at CBD. Ni sisi tunapewa retail. Then they bring those things to sell to us. Hawa ndo wanazitoa huko, wanazileta kwetu kwa sababu wanatupatia hizo nyumba. Sisi tuuze. So he tells me, Andrew, can you imagine, sisi ushikana sisi wote hivi, like 100 people. This one has a wholesale in pharmaceutical, maybe mali kama Thika, huyu ako Nairobi, huyu ako Isili, huyu ako wapi, tunashikana 100 of us, and we ask for that consignment as one. Imagine the bargaining power we have when we're ordering for those medicine from either India, US, or China. Imagine the power we have in terms of logistics bringing them. We use our own to bring those logistics. Nyinyi mtapigana kila mtu itisha yake. No bargaining power. So from the moment that medicine is leaving India, we already have a markup which we know we can beat you. Sasa tusingie kwa transport, wewe unataka kujiletea, zikifika hapa Mombasa, watu wa corruption wao wameenda wamefanya. They have placed their people everywhere. Inanyooka inakuja mpaka inakuja. Distribution inaingia Isili, then now it's distributed to the 100 different people from where they come from. How will you ever compete with such people? And that's why you hear me asking, how do you explain we have an education system that we're so proud of, na tuna import mpaka toothpick? Toothpick, we're importing toothpick, and we say we have a good education system. What are we teaching our children in these institutions if they can't even think of these things I'm talking about here? So when you get into your businesses now, there's a reason why I decided to walk you through this is because this will show you why some people can do businesses for 20 years and they get stuck where they are. Retail is very different. It really, because of the competition and the fear force of everyone being in that space, it's difficult to grow. If you factor that to those who walked into that business of copy pasting, then you understand the damage that comes in. So I am showing you these things such that when you start doing that practice of writing things down, the complaints that you hear every single day, when you sit down to ask yourself, can this be a business idea? I do not want you to think retail. I want you to think manufacturing. I want you to think distribution at the very, very least. To a point whereby you can even tell yourself, if this idea cannot generate for me selling this item to at least 100,000 people every month, sitaki, you can even create your own threshold and say, I'll continue doing this thing until the day I am going to come up with an idea which I know every month I'll have minimum of 100,000 customers buying this thing from me. So it'll be making a profit of 100 bob from this 100,000. That's 10 million every month, you're guaranteed, even before you start doing your research. Na ukianza hivi, watu wote wa retail umewacha. If you're aggressive like me, I will say, like now I'm working on something where I've said, in the next 5 years, it has to reach at least 1 million people. The next 5 years. And I'm very clear in terms of my strategic plan to get there. And in each of them, I'll be making 400 shillings. So I'm someone who's looking in 5 years, I should be making at least 400 million every month. And you'll sit there and say, I'm blessed. I'm not blessed. We are created equally with God. It's just that I got this information. And that's why I'm telling you, this is a privilege for you to learn these things. Go apply them and see whether they don't work. I'm going to end by telling you that I had a friend again when I was doing my A-levels in Aga Khan. Baba yake alikuwa anatengeneza wembe, an Indian, eh? And I used to laugh because to me I used to think, hey, of all the things ni wembe tu unatengeneza. But guess what? I used to use a matatu going to school. This child used to come with a Mercedes. Najafika hata 18 years. Now I look back and like, how stupid was I? Nilikuwa nacheka nini? I came to understand this. Juu kwa akili yangu nikifikiria wembe, nilikuwa na ile wembe nilikuwa nanunua shilingi 10 ama shilingi 20 kwa duka. And once I buy it once, the next time I'll need one is sijui ni lini. So to me, I think it's something that is not even profitable. Sasa mimi ni customer ndo hapa nafikiria hivyo. So if you come to retail, I am looking at that shopkeeper. Alinunua box moja. Hiyo box moja itamchukua maybe 2 months or 3 months. Okay? If you go back to the wholesaler, anachukua box ngapi? Ukienda kwa distributor ni box ngapi? Ukienda kwa manufacturer, now you're talking about trucks which are distributing these razors across the entire country. So if he distributes, let's say even 1 million, or let's say 100,000 every day, and is making 5 shillings profit at manufacturing level, how much is that? So what I'm trying to tell you is, those ideas start coming up with, make sure you understand this supply chain. There's a magic behind it. Try as much as possible to go down. That's where the money is. And that is why this program we're going to launch for children, all these things are factored there to make sure you start programming their minds to start doing these things. Na mtajionea tu na muda. Okay? So when I talk about the magic of supply chain, this is what I want you to do. If you're in a retail place somewhere, no umekwama sana, don't give up. The whole idea is where you are. The next thing is, where do you want to be? So if you want to go somewhere high, because here we want to move from S to B, we must have a very clear plan. Because we know financial freedom is on the right side. So you've been doing business for 20 years, umekoma pale, then you need to start thinking of another idea. Kwa sababu huwezi kupeleka. And the secret is what I've just told you. Hiyo motion tunakuwaga nayo throughout. I'm not asking you not to participate. Participate, but let one ear be attentive. Ama mkimalizana kiwa kando jiulize, na watu tulikuwa tuna complain nini? Start writing them down. You will be surprised at how many ideas are there. That's why Jack Ma came to this country and told us, everywhere I look around, I just see ideas. And people thought he was joking. It's because he trained his mind to do that. And you are no different from him. The only thing you need to do is to start to practice what I'm telling you. Stop focusing on money. Focus on ideas. Money will bring itself. Okay? So I'm going to end at that particular point. I'll hand it over to Alice. I'm very open for any questions that you might have for me. Asanteni sana. Over to you, Alice.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Andrew. Thank you also our participants for being here. It's been so good that we are learning on how we can be able to embrace creativity and critical thinking. So it's never late in our lives. At this moment, because of time, I'll just allow questions. Even as I also thank all of you for joining in today. Anyone who has a question, you can just unmute and speak, or you can write on the chat. Karibuni. Not only questions, we can also comment. Yeah, thank you, CEO. Yeah, it's very informative, and you won't want to miss any of these sessions. Thank you, Joyce. Can see your comment too. Thank you so much for that. I think we are good to go because I'm not seeing any questions. Meaning tumeelewa sana leo ama labda tu kupata chochote. But I think from the comments, we are really good. We've enjoyed the session. And what is important is that we need to, you can listen, but if you don't put it into practice, what will happen? It will still be the same. Tunajipeanga psych ukishasikiza, but you just forget immediately you leave. So let's make sure that we put everything into practice and we'll have changed lives at the end of it. Yeah, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Joanne. Yeah, sure. You're putting it right. It's now up to us to put it into practice. And also maybe you can teach others, because when you teach someone also it sticks more. Tay, thank you so much, Tay. How I restart, I know you, maybe I also wanted to invite those who are non-members and you'd want to join Telepost Sacco. Maybe I'll give a telephone number down here, then you can be able to call us tomorrow. We can still write our questions or any comments. They kindly call me tomorrow. I'll be able to advise you more. Thank you, Benjamin.
Yes, I'll do that. I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay, welcome. Any other who'd want to join us, kindly call us. Or in case you want to understand more or anything, just call us. Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew, for giving us these sessions. It's upon us now.
Excuse me.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. How can we reach Andrew? Like privately? Does he have a number we can call?
Yes. He'll write his number down on the charts.
Okay.
That you can be able to reach out to him too.
Okay.
Okay. I know we have chairman with us. I don't know if you have something to tell us today.
Yeah,
Just say hi kindly.
Thank you so much, Madam Alice and the whole team. The session has been very, very much informative all through. But I was only asking whether we can get this one. You said this one's the second last, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't know whether the last one we can have a repeat on the health issue, because I think it was only done on once, and I realized it was very, very critical and very important, because at times you can save money, work very hard, but even on the other side, you don't care about your diet, you care about what you eat, you don't care about your health. It all goes down to again zero. So I don't know whether there's a way maybe you can have another session on health side, just for those who are not able to catch up, to get explanation. So I find it very, very important.
Sure, Chairman. That is very good. We'll be able to organize that with Mr. Andrew and see you.
Thank you.
Okay. I can see. Thank you, Madam Zubeida, for your comment. Kathy, I don't know what you really mean. And also there's a question, I don't know it's for the SAC or for Andrew. Can share capital be long-term investment? Mr. Andrew?
I believe that's directed to the circle. But from where
Okay.
I'm seated, yes, it is.
Yeah, it
Like
is.
for me, whoever's asked that question, that is one of my, that's one of my strategy
Sure.
of creating a cash flow asset that is
Yeah.
going to take care of my liability of retirement. So I'm just saving to a point where when I retire now, I'll just start eating the dividends. I'll never touch the share capital.
Thank you so much. Sure, it is because we earn dividends from the share capital. So that is cash flow coming in on a yearly basis. Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew. I hope he is answered. Thank you. I think now we can be able to close kindly. I just want to welcome you to our next session that will be on 22nd of May. Kindly, if you can be able also to invite your friends, invite your relatives, invite everyone else so that they can be able to get this. Let's not be selfish to ourselves. Let's build Kenya and stop complaining. Thank you so much for today. Just want to wish you a good night and see you next time. Thank you. Kuandika comments.